Hello, everybody. Welcome to Extra Life 2022, the 8th annual Extra Life. Here I have with me Melissa Gross, Director of Strategic Development at the Salinas Valley Memorial Hospital. Hello, welcome.
Hi, thank you. So glad to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate this. I wanted really everybody to see and hear from the hospital itself about what we do and how we've contributed and how things are going over there. I wanted to start with who you are and how long you've been for the hospital and what you do around the hospital.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, I'm Melissa. I've been with the hospital for it'll be 15 years in April.
Wow.
I did not start off in the nonprofit side of things. I actually say I was kind of dropped into it by complete luck or serendipity or whatever you want to call it. I was relocated after the person I assisted retired, and the foundation needed some help. And now, 13 years later, it's the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
Probably
I
super
had
fulfilling, yeah?
Oh, it was wonderful. I didn't know you could get paid and have a career to raise money for good causes. That just it, I'm very lucky to love what I do. I realize fully that not everyone can say that, but I am very lucky that I can. And I got to do the Children's Miracle Network Hospitals program for 10 of those 13 years that I've been with the foundation. So this is a very close to my heart program, and part of the reason why I'm so excited to talk about it is even though I'm not the direct program coordinator anymore, it is affectionately known as my third child. CMN is something that will always be a part of who I am. So it's great to be able to share it.
That's so cool. You've actually been in it longer than I have because I've only been doing this for 8 years and you've been in it for 10. So that's you have a lot more knowledge and a lot more understanding than I do under your belt. So I'm
Well,
really excited to hear all of the cool stuff that we're gonna talk about today.
definitely.
I wanted to go about the little bit of the history of the Salinas Memorial Hospital and their particular children's program. Um,
Sure. Well, I can take it from there. So we joined Children's Miracle Network Hospitals in 1989. And I'm not going to ask if you were even alive in 1989. I definitely was. But we became a member of this beautiful network of hospitals. There's 170 member hospitals across North America, including Canada. And having been a part of this since 1989, we're one of the older partner hospitals. The program was created as a telethon way back when. And people, I
a
know,
telethon, really?
and you're going to be too young to know this, but Donnie and Marie Osmond of the Osmond brothers and the Osmond family were two of the founders of Children's Miracle Network hospitals.
I don't know
So
who they are.
I know, see, and I'm way too old. I know exactly who they are. Donnie and Marie, they had a long-standing show in Vegas too. But
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
so they created this network. We've been a part of it since '89. And in that time, we've been able to raise over $12 million to help pediatric health in our Tri County area, which is an amazing thing to be a part of. And you and Extra Life are a huge part of that.
Wow, that's a huge number, man. I thought that 25 was a big number. $12 million?
You got to figure that's over 30 plus years. So you'll get there.
We're making our way. We're making our way. We're making
Definitely.
big strides, right?
Definitely.
That's so interesting. I didn't know it was started as a telethon. That blows my mind. Um,
Things have changed a lot since then, and most hospitals in the network do not have a telethon any longer. We discontinued ours in 2007, but we do still hold 3 radiothons a year, and they're all Spanish language radiothons. They raise collectively about $150,000 a year for us. So there's still some media roots in there somewhere, just not the telethons of old.
Yeah, I don't know how long telethons were like when they ended. Like I remember when I was a kid and I watched the telethon, I was like, no, I'm not sure what's happening here. Just celebrities picking up phones and stuff. But that's
Picking up phones, writing down tell the credit card information, exactly.
But on using the radio to the advantage is that sounds really cool.
It's a lot of fun. It's a long weekend, but much like Extra Life, when we do things in a big way. So we run 12 hours a day for 3 days straight for Radiothon. And some of our most generous donors actually come from the cuadrillas in the field. So we have farm owners who will challenge their employees and then match everything that they raise. So
That's so cool.
I could talk about all things CMN for days and days and days, but
Well,
we get to meet a lot of cool people.
that's why I'm happy to finally get this information. This is stuff I never knew, so that's awesome. I wanted to see how many kids come through the program per year.
Sure. So before I can answer that in its entirety, I should explain that while we are essentially a community hospital, we have an 18-bed children's unit, we have an 11-bed neonatal intensive care unit, and then our emergency department is really our front door for the vast majority of our pediatric patients. But because we have 3 counties that we serve, and not everyone is going to come through Salinas Valley Memorial's doors,
Hmm.
we also operate a medical needs granting program to reach children in San Benito, Santa Cruz, and Monterey counties
Okay.
that may not otherwise have access to us. So while we serve a great number of children in the hospital, we have a much wider reach. And a lot of times I think it just requires a little bit of extra explanation because, I mean, where you are, you would not necessarily come to our hospital. But if there were a child, that you knew that needed mobility devices or needed hearing aids, those are the kind of things that we can fund. So now I
Spe-
can answer your question.
okay. Go
Does
ahead.
that
Go
make
ahead.
sense?
Yeah. Totally makes sense.
Sure. So we see about 20,000 kids a year through our emergency department. Roughly 1/3 of our volume of the entire emergency department is kids. And that is a variety of medical conditions, everything from bronchitis and asthma to appendicitis to surgical fixes. And sometimes we end up diagnosing really, really sad and scary things. And we get children stabilized before they will go up to the Bay Area for more intense treatment.
Hmm.
But the short answer is between our pediatrics unit, our outpatient surgical department, and our emergency department, we're actually up over 25,000 kids a year. And you can add on top of that another 300 that attend Days of Discovery at the Monterey Bay Aquarium that we fund.
Oh.
You can add to that another 100 kids that usually receive medical needs grants during the course of each year. And all of our NICU graduates who get invited to come back to a NICU reunion every year. So the number's a lot bigger than it seems once you start adding in all those other areas that were involved.
Well, it's I think it's really cool that at least we're not just this area but the wider area that we're kind of like it seems like the children's program is the first line in case anything more intense comes along, you guys know where they need to be to get better treatment. So,
And we have some beautiful partnerships with our Bay Area hospitals. So our NICU is a level 3 neonatal intensive care unit, which is as high as it gets. However, we choose to partner with Lucille Packard Children's Hospital at Stanford. And anytime we have a surgical case for a NICU baby, we'll send them up there where that's something they do all the time,
mm,
rather than have us do it with few and far between. So those partnerships, they really allow us to access that higher level of care when we need it.
that's good. That it's important to have those avenues when you need them,
Definitely.
especially for sick kids. I mean, especially for sick kids.
Definitely. And one of the things that we do, again, once you get me started, Anson, we're just going
Keep
I'm
going.
just
Keep
gonna
going.
go.
Keep going. It's great.
One of the things that we do is we fund something called the Miracle Mobile, which is housed in Santa Cruz County, and it is operated by a partner of ours called Partnership for Children. It's a Prius. It goes to and from the Bay Area all the way through Monterey County, Santa Cruz County, and San Benito County. It will transport children and their families to and from the Bay Area with no cost whatsoever so that they can access treatment without paying the exorbitant gas charges that we all know are hitting us right now.
That is
So we have
so
two
cool.
Miracle Mobiles that we operate with funds raised. And for those that don't utilize that, we also are able to offer gas cards to help families that are traveling back and forth.
Yeah, and it's really important, especially for I at least something that I've seen. It's important to be able to be there for your kid if your kid needs to be it needs to be there, like as like in the hospital as a hospital patient, for families not to be by their side for days on end. It just you can't do that. So that is super nice program that you guys have available to the families.
Thank you. We're pretty proud of it. But again, it's all funded by donation. So really it is you providing the Miracle Mobile for these kids.
Well,
I'm just giving you a way to do it.
it ain't me. It's all the heroes that are watching and donating and here for helping today. Like it's without them, this really doesn't go farther than just a couple of dollars. So they're making the big change, really. I wanted to know what changes has Extra Life brought, and like how has my community and the money that my community has raised directly assisted in the treatment or equipment, or I know that we just talked about the transportation. Um,
Mhm.
what other ways have we contributed?
So, one of my favorite projects, which is something that we launched after we started receiving funds for Extra Life. So even though Extra Life has been around a really long time, we didn't have a super active gamer community supporting us really until about 8 years ago. So I can blame you for that in the best of ways.
You're welcome.
But also about 8 years ago, we started having the conversation of what types of things, if we had the money, could we do? And one of those projects that took about 4 years to get going is something called the NIC camera system. And this is something that you talk about having family close by. When a mom welcomes a baby into the world, one of the traditional things is everybody comes and sees the baby, and they shower you with love and meals and casseroles and things like that. And when you have a NICU baby, your baby doesn't come home when you come home, and
Mhm.
sometimes it can be weeks and sometimes it can be months. So when we heard about this NICView system, it was actually the staff on the NICU unit that reached out to us. And these cameras are one way, fully encrypted, color video feed that are attached to hardwired to all of our NICU isolates. And parents are given a secure access code that they can choose to share with anyone they want so that mom, grandma, grandpa, sisters, cousins can all peek in and see how baby's doing when they can't come in
Oh,
there in person.
that is
So
so heartwarming. That's so
it's
nice.
the coolest piece of equipment. And I'll tell you, when COVID struck, those
Oh.
cameras became lifesavers. We were only able to allow one visitor in at a time with our pediatric patients, including our NICU babies.
Mm.
And so those cameras became a lifeline for the loved ones at home that were not able to provide that support. So that project would not have happened if it weren't for the additional funds being raised, for example, through Extra Life. So that you
Wow.
can take a lot of ownership for that. It was almost $100,000 project.
My heart, it's so big and warm right now. That's so sweet to know. I can't imagine again, especially with COVID and people not even being able to leave their house, let alone go to a hospital. Like, not.
Imagine having a baby in the middle of that, and then having a baby with critical health needs on top of that. And it just the camera system became so much more than it already was, and we were very lucky to have it in place, in the instance of a pandemic.
Hmm. That's so cool. When was that installed? Like, when did that finally get finished?
It actually finally launched in 2019, so it could not
Oh
come
my
sooner.
God, really?
Yeah.
Wow, right before, right when you
Right.
needed it. Wow, like right in the nick of time.
No, it is funny how things like that happen, but we had
That's
no idea the ways that it was going to be used. But man, I am so glad it was there.
that's so good. That's astounding me. That's so cool. Um, what are I guess then we'll branch off this way and we'll see like what are some future plans for funding for that we can contribute to.
Definitely. So there are always needs. What we are, believe it or not, one of our most requested and most what we deem important pieces are the stuffed comfort items that we offer in the emergency room and pediatrics unit. And we have seen, especially recently with COVID and RSV, our volumes are going up, 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 up. We've got a full pediatrics unit right now. Those stuffed animals that we're able to give to those children, those are what we call a nice to have. Those are not a need to have. And those are things that would not be funded without donations, especially given all of the crazy healthcare costs that keep rising out there. So it seems like a small thing, but those stuffed bears are things that just make such a huge difference, especially when someone is scared. So, one of the things, though, that I think you'll especially be interested in is we are working on what is they're calling the Care Bear Project in our emergency department. And one of the things they want us to fund is a pair of virtual reality goggles so that kids,
Oh.
especially neurodiverse kids who are in our emergency department and scared, have the ability to distract themselves and to be transported somewhere different. And the implications of bringing in equipment like that is surprisingly complicated when you're talking about privacy practices, safety, policy, encryption, so on and so forth, stuff that is way above my level.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, we would have half a dozen of these units, and there are even models that can go into a CT scanner with the kid. So if a child needs a CT scan, they don't have to. I don't know if you've ever had a CT scan, but you're in a big donut, gigantic donut, and it is loud and clunky and noisy and scary. Um, I don't enjoy them, and I'm a fully grown adult.
Oh.
But the
Yeah.
idea is we would have the funds to provide one of those specialty pairs of VR goggles to let the kids be able to take them into the CT scan with them. So
Oh,
that's something that we're working toward.
gotcha. That's yeah, I remember like watching House a long time ago and seeing the
Oh, I love
CT scan and it's so loud and you have to stay still, like perfectly still.
Yep,
You can't do anything. So
yep.
having that kind of distraction and having that able to like see something that's not just a white light going across your face, I bet that would really alleviate a lot of stress that anybody, not just a kid, but anybody would go through in a CT scan. So,
And it's funny you say that. Some of the tools that we have purchased over the years, yes, they've been purchased for children, but they tend to have uses for adults too. We got a call, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago. There were 2 patients with Alzheimer's that were in the unit that were very fidgety, and they asked if it would be okay if we gave them stuffed animals, and it was, "You don't even have to
oh,
ask, just do it, of course." And then the vein viewers that we've purchased over the years, when we first bought one, it's a fancy little piece of equipment that lights up your veins so that your phlebotomist knows where to go. If
mhm,
you've ever been stuck more than once for an IV or a blood draw, you know that that is
yep.
very important. But now we have them in our pockets. There are handheld vein viewers available.
Oh, cool.
Upon a time, we had to keep it under lock and key because every unit in the hospital wanted to come borrow the vein viewer, but we share when we can.
Hmm. Gotcha. That's super cool. And just for stuffies, as you can see, I know the importance of having stuffed animals and stuff around. It's good squeezing. It's good for your hands. It feels good to give something a hug. I very much understand. So I
Definitely. And there's actually health benefits that are associated with it. And when somebody has surgery, especially abdominal surgery,
mm,
anytime you cough or sneeze after surgery, it hurts.
ooh.
So we tell the kids, who are obviously much smaller, to hold their teddy bears against their stomach when they cough or sneeze.
Oh.
To try to that we tell them that the stuffy is giving them a hug to help keep them from hurting.
Oh, that's my heart. There's so much sweetness and so much love and care that you guys give to these children, and their families as well, and it really warms me up.
I just love the chance to tell you about it because we so rarely get the opportunity. There's only so much that a 30-second commercial or a print advertisement can tell you, and I feel like if everyone knew what I know, we would never have any trouble raising money.
Yeah.
If everyone knew what I know that is being done with this, yeah, so it's really great to be able to share it, so in depth.
Well, we can keep going. You want to keep going?
Yes,
Let's keep
definitely.
going. Something that I talked to you about, when I first discussed this, was I wanted you to tell us some stories about kids who have gone through the system and kids who have gone through the program, and give us something good.
Brace yourself, though. I told you I was gonna hold my
I
favorite story
I
until
heard
we
I heard there's some stuff coming. I don't know what it is, so I'm
so
ready.
this goes to the medical needs granting program that is operated, that tri-county wide program. Families can apply for support for anything that is medically beneficial. It doesn't have to be medically necessary. So if something is medically necessary, typically there's a payer source for it. Your insurance, Medi-Cal, California Children's Services, something is going to pay for it. But there are so many things that are beneficial that just aren't deemed worthy by insurance or state aid programs.
Hmm.
So, this story that I'm going to tell you has to do with that program in particular, and a little girl who had advanced neuroblastoma, which is a type of brain cancer. If you watched House, you've probably known about neuroblastoma. But
Yeah, a
that and
long time ago, but yeah.
everybody had sarcoidosis on that show. Um, but so I got a phone call from a social worker who was actually working in children's palliative care and hospice care. And she asked about music therapy for this little girl who at the time was 4 years old and was having trouble understanding what was a terminal cancer diagnosis. At 4 years old, no child should have to understand what a terminal diagnosis means.
Way
So,
too
of
intense for, I mean, even further along, like nobody's
absolutely.
prepared for that. So,
Oh, and at 4, you don't have any concept of mortality. You
mhm.
know, everybody that you love is there, and they're always gonna be there, and that's kind of the way they think. So we got a music therapist to come into the house, and she was coming twice a week and doing art and music therapy with this little girl, and it continued on actually for a couple of months. And then I stopped getting bills for the music therapy to pay for the music therapy, but I did get another phone call I wanna say maybe 4 or 5 weeks later, once after the bills had stopped.
Mhm.
And it's the same social worker, and she says, "Well, her disease is progressing. She is mostly bedbound now, and her muscles are beginning to atrophy, so she's not able to use those muscles." So, music therapy, they were really grateful for it, but it had run its course. So, the social worker asked, "What did I think about getting her into aqua therapy? Getting her out of bed, getting her into the warm pool, and having a physical therapist work with her to move those muscles and to keep her active in some ways." So, of course, that was another really easy yes. And it was a short amount of time that she did aqua therapy, but we had a great partnership with a local pool that had occupational and physical therapists.
Mm.
So, again, the bills stopped, and I usually don't get a follow up. I don't get to know what happens with most patient families. Then they don't owe us anything, right? I don't
Gotcha.
need to know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But couple months go by, and same social worker calls me, and she said, "I've been trying to get up the nerve to call you for weeks and weeks, and I wanted to tell you what her family shared." And it was that they called those her swimming lessons because, again, she was 4, and they said that it was such an important part of her routine, and she loved it so much that she talked about swimming lessons until she could no longer speak, and that when she could not speak anymore, they're still convinced she was thinking about it because she would blow bubbles and kick her feet in her sleep.
Oh.
So, she obviously we lost her to this cancer diagnosis. It was a terrible, devastating end, but to have been able to provide those swimming lessons to this little girl at the end of her life and that memory for her parents, they have a positive memory of something in the most difficult time of their lives. And even though it's a terribly sad story, it's one that I am so grateful we were able to come in and help with. And that, that's probably been 6 or 8 years ago now, and it is one that I will remember for the rest of my life. I never met the child, I never met the family, um, but when you send those donations and you do that fundraising, those are the types of things that you're helping to provide, and I guarantee that family has never forgot.
I mean, I can't imagine that they ever will forget. I mean, seeing your child who is going through something that they don't quite understand, but yet they're still smiling, and you are providing that smile, and you're providing that peace of mind.
Mhm.
Um, I I mean, it's gonna be hard, but it makes it a little bit easier that you know that she's having a good time.
Yeah.
Um,
There was something other than doctor's visits and end of life care, there was something else. And
yeah.
I'll move you into, one my other favorite story, which is not anywhere near as sad.
Okay.
Um,
That was pretty sad. I'm not gonna lie.
pretty sad, but, it's sad, but
But it was something that
so
we could provide, something that we could make better. It could have
when
been
you
worse, you know?
exactly. You were able to help provide something.
Mhm.
So this other story that I'll tell you, we fund something called Days of Discovery at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and it is a special needs dive experience for kids. They actually get to suit up in dry suits, and they are partnered. Yes, they are partnered with volunteer divers, and they go into the Great Tide Pool exhibit and they scuba dive.
That's
Those
so cool.
awesome. So those that can get a regulator and an oxygen tank. Those that can't, they have special boards that they kind of look like kickboards, but there is a concave bubble. So
Mm.
the kids can put their face in it and see all of the animals and sea life that is underneath them.
That's so
So
cool.
it's awesome. It's a great partnership too, and there's roughly 100 kids a year that go through that in the summertime. We're hoping and hoping and hoping that it will happen this year. We had to shut it down for COVID, but anyhow, so one of my first years at Days of Discovery, I had my little CMN polo shirt on, but I was standing up at the top looking over the Great Tide Pool exhibit with 30 kids just everywhere and all of these volunteer divers. And this gentleman to my right, he looks like he's crying. And I was trying, I was being shy. I was relatively new to my role at that point, but I
Mhm.
couldn't do it anymore. So I finally asked him if he was okay. And he said, "Do you see that boy down there?" And he points. And there is a boy who is in the water up to his neck, in a dry suit and holding a starfish. And he says, "That's my son. He's autistic. He will only wear one type of sweatpants and one sweatshirt. That's the only thing he'll wear every single day of the year. And he's in a dry suit in the water right now." And that man had no idea who I was. I did not share who I was. I did not share anything. I gave him a hug because that's who I am.
It's a big deal. Yeah, 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 yeah.
And, at that point, it was so special to see what mattered to him. It wasn't even the experience for him. He broke it down into a smaller bite-sized piece of they got my kid into a full dry suit and got him in the water, and I'm not there. I'm up watching,
Yeah.
and he called it a miracle. And that, that is why we're Children's Miracle Network for a reason.
That
So
is
that is my
so
other
cool.
favorite story.
That one's much happier. But both of them are happy stories. But that I think that's super, that's special, especially that you saw it from a parent. Like sometimes you see the what we do for the children, but you don't see what we do for the parent of these children. Again, the whole family unit is important. So
So that's a beautiful segue actually. And the piece of my story that I didn't used to share, but that I do now is when I started with CMN, I had one child who had no medical concerns whatsoever.
mhm,
These days, I have two children, as you've heard me talk about, both of whom are now medically complex, both of whom have regular visits up to specialty centers in the Bay Area, one of whom goes to occupational therapy every single week. And I had so much trouble getting help for my kids that it brought me to realize that if I, as a fully capable and well-connected adult in the medical field, I know doctors, they're on my speed dial, but if
yeah.
I couldn't get help, if I couldn't get my kid what she needed, how in the world was anybody else going to?
hmm
If I could not access resources or if I didn't have the ability to be on the phone calling doctor's offices, if I were waiting tables or if I were in the fields and didn't have that luxury, my kid wouldn't have gotten the help that she needed. So that was something that we took back and expanded the medical needs granting program to really look at those resources that, well, they may be available in the Bay Area or they may be available on a 5 or 6 month wait list, but what can we do now? What can we do right now? And it's given me a lot of perspective. You talk about the parents, and parents are fiercely protective of their children. Um, I am no different. I am fiercely protective of my children.
Of course, of
My
course.
my youngest daughter has had 2 anesthetized MRIs at my hospital. She has had EEGs with electrodes on her head at my hospital. She's been in the emergency room more times than I care to admit,
Oh no.
um, both for sickness and because she thinks she's, flawless, good,
Invulnerable.
imperfect.
Yeah.
Exactly, there you go. But as the parent side of things, I used to say that I loved what I did, regardless. And then once I became the mom of 2 medically complex kids, one of even the older one had a week-long stay in the Bay Area, I appreciate it from a different place. So when I get the opportunity to say thank you to someone like you or to your donors or to anyone who is dropping $1 at Costco when they walk through the line, I say that thank you from a completely different place. I say it not only as the professional fundraiser, but as the mom of 2 kids who those dollars have helped.
Having that connection just makes you so much more attentive and close to, I mean, again, especially you with what you're working and your life are both connected at this point.
It
So
is.
um I was not I was pretty healthy as a child. I've been to the hospital once, so I don't have that connection, but I've seen it for other people. I've seen it for other families, especially when I worked at the bank and I saw it with other people. So to hear the firsthand accounts, it's really important, I think, for me as well as everybody watching. Thank you.
You bet.
Let's see. We have a few more questions on here. Let's
Sure.
see. So if people are unable to donate, how would people be able to volunteer? At least here, I know we really only want to talk about here, but other CMN hospitals, I'm sure that they could talk with their hospital or their hospital reps, or even go online to the hospital website and click on the volunteer tab.
Definitely. So all of our member hospitals can be found at cmnhospitals.org. It will geotag you and take you to your closest CMN hospital based on where you're looking.
That's very
Um,
handy.
It's very high tech. I was very impressed. But We as a local hospital, we have limited opportunities to volunteer in person. So what we encourage people to do is to one, help spread the story, help tell when you're in line at Walmart and they ask you to round up and somebody grumpily ahead of you says, "Oh, that money doesn't go anywhere. That just goes into some CEO's pocket." Oh, for heaven's sake. Those are my favorite conversations because that person had no idea who they were in line in front of,
Mhm.
and I will tell them all about the ways that they are wrong. Advocacy is incredibly important, and even something simple like drawing coloring thank you card or get well cards, excuse me, that you could send in. We have programs where folks will knit or crochet baby hats. We have opportunities where we'll provide you the yarn. Just I don't know if you crochet, Anson, but if you did,
I'm willing to learn. I will learn on stream. Consider it a plan next year.
there you go. I can teach you. But those are some opportunities. And then once we get back to in-person events, I mentioned the NICU reunion. We're hopeful. It's typically held in the fall. We've pushed it to an April date this year, hoping that we'll be able to have it in person. RSV has really done a number on our pediatric population, so I'm hoping that we're able to do this in person. But we bring together over 400 people at that event. And it's an opportunity for families and patients to reconnect with their doctors and nurses from the NICU. And we bring in volunteers to help work with the kids. So we have carnival booths and games and art stations and all sorts of activities. So on a local level, we love to invite volunteers out for that. But yes, it can be something simple as advocacy and uh, the power of social media is something that we really underestimated as even a network. I think the more folks are willing to share content that is relevant, the wider the audience and the more impact we're able to have. So everything from Twitch to Facebook. I know Facebook's for older people. My daughter tells
I
me
still use it. I still use
uh,
it.
I was back in the Friendster days, and so I mean, pre-MySpace. That was a long time ago. However, yeah, and that's what I say when I mean advocacy is helping to spread the message, and social media is a really easy way to do that.
Yeah, that's what I really spent a lot of time this year trying to use my social media platform, especially again like as Twitch, to get as much information out there as possible. But I didn't know the whole thing, which is why I really wanted to have this chat with you. And I felt like this was so important because again, I can't give the information, but getting the information from the source, which would be you, Melissa, is what people want, is what people need. They need that. And I think that I think that this interview will go a long, long way. And I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
I am delighted. Like I said, I could talk all day about this, but I think it's something that it's authentic. I believe in what we do. I don't think I could have been in this job for as long as I have been if I didn't believe in it with absolutely every fiber of my being. Something else that came to mind while you were talking and telling the story, just spinning here, one of the things that so many nonprofits they face is having to cover operational expenses, right? It takes money, it costs money to make money. And that is, I will always fiercely defend a nonprofit's costs and overhead. However, we are in a really fortunate situation. Our hospital pays all of our membership fees, pays the salary of the program coordinator, and gives the CMN Hospitals program an operating budget. So when you donate a dollar goes to the cause. That is incredibly rare in the nonprofit world, but our hospital values the program so much that they make that investment for us so that we don't have to pull from donor funds to essentially keep the lights on, so to speak.
That's so good to hear because, again, like so many people, they will always discredit and they'll say, this is going into somebody's pocket. But hearing that this directly affects, again, things like the NICU, right? Um,
Mhm.
things that we can directly contribute to, I think that that is so important and so cool, that we have this power that we can contribute.
Yeah,
Um,
and right here, it is literally in our backyard. And yeah, I always struggle telling that because it is okay for nonprofits to have expenses, and we just happen to be incredibly fortunate that we get the privilege of putting every penny, and I mean every penny,
Mhm.
to work.
And every dollar counts. I mean, like, not a single dollar goes to waste. It all counts. It goes towards. I will have a graphic at some point um, about where what small amounts of donations can really provide to the Children's Miracle Network. I wanted to close off this interview with something a little fun. Um, what video games do you play, or do your children's play any video games?
Would you believe that I am the biggest gamer in our household?
That's what I love to hear.
So I see your Zelda shield in the background.
Yep.
Uh, let I am an old school diehard Nintendo fan.
All
I grew up
right.
on the original Nintendo that I had as a child. Well, yes, we had an Atari too, but that didn't stick. Nintendo became part of my childhood, and all of the Zelda games, Legend of Zelda, those are my absolute favorite. But even before that, and again, I'm going to date myself here. I used to play something called Legend of the Red Dragon on
Oh,
BBS's old school bulletin boards where it was all 16-bit graphics and primarily text-based. That was my real introduction into social gaming.
that's
So,
super
I'm
cool.
still a loyalist. I still love Nintendo. We have a PlayStation at home. We have the Wii U, but Super Nintendo 64 that is the game.
People still play a lot of N64. People still play a lot of NES, and it's so funny because there's a huge comeback right now for retro games, and a lot of
Legend of the Dragon.
yeah.
Oh, and King's Quest. Did you ever play King's Quest?
Oh, I played King's Quest. I don't think I ever finished it. It is
Have you ever finished it?
without a guide. I don't think I don't think I figured out all the puzzles. So
Yeah, see, I'm old school gamer, but I like the role playing games, and Zelda is my ultimate favorite. Yeah, that's and my
that's
kids, my one kid, my little kid likes Minecraft and Roblox, and I have
okay.
not been able to understand yet. She's trying to teach me, but
There's a lot to Minecraft, and Roblox is out of my wheelhouse completely. So I understand that.
Minecraft to me, it's like jumping back in time to the old 16-bit graphic games that I grew up on. But the purpose, I haven't figured out the purpose yet. If you can tell me what the purpose of Minecraft is.
From when
So
I played Minecraft, you make your purpose. That's the whole gig. Is if you want to go in and find diamonds, that's the plan. If you want to go in and make yourself an entire gold set of armor, then that's the plan. If your goal is to just get monster parts and make potions and be a wizard, then by all means, that's how I always played that game. Was going in with a goal, setting out on that goal with my friends, and then having a good time.
nice. Nice. Well, she's still trying to teach me, so
Well, if you ever need a partner, I'm in for you. I'm in.
awesome. I'll teach you to crochet, you teach me Minecraft.
There you go. I'll easy, easy.
Anson, I wanted to say thank you, and I know I probably sound like a broken record, but it is a very special program that you support and that your donors and friends and family all support for us. And I hope that talking today has given them just a little bit of a glimpse into the magic that you all make happen. Because as much as I've said today, I could say 10 times as much and still not run out of things to talk about
We'll
what
get you
we.
on next year.
Okay, I'm in.
We'll do another interview next year.
I'm in. I'm totally in.
I'm super happy to give back to my community. I've really stand on my platform of giving back. The community gives us so much just as being people. And I think that if we all gave back in a special way, something that is means something to you, we'd all really be better off. And we're in it together. Like that's something I always say is like we're in it together. So why not work together?
And when you mention every dollar, it adds up, and it adds up incredibly quickly. One of our partners, our corporate partners, is Panda Express, and their year-round fundraising is to round up at the register. So each donor that chooses to round up is giving pennies. I mean, they're giving anywhere from 1 to 99 cents, obviously, but that in the course of a year can add up to $150,000. So those dollar donations matter, and they come together to make this incredible force for good.
I'm really happy that we can all contribute, even in a small way. It goes so far when we do things together, than when we do them separately. So, I wanted to ask you if you had either any questions for me. I know I didn't set you up with this in the question log, but if you had any questions for me, or if you had anything you wanted to say to our lovely audience today. um,
As if you heard me gabbing on.
yeah.
Well, I do actually have a question for you. And one of the things that is really important to fundraisers, again, professional fundraisers, that's what we do for a living. But every donor and every supporter wants to be recognized in a different way. And the gamer community as a whole has been really hard for us to capture because you all are frequently anonymous. You are using handles and tags and whatever else they call them now. And you don't do it for the accolades. You don't do it for the thank yous. I know it took some convincing to get you to come for that check that's behind you, and to give the opportunity to say thank you in front of our board. But what ways can we connect with our gamers and supporters on the Extra Life side of things that would be meaningful to you?
Well, if you ask, I mean, you are asking me, so I won't
I am
continue that.
asking you.
Um, Honestly, this interview has been something that I have wanted to have for a couple of years now. Um, I wanted something where I would be able to give this information out, to people. Notoriety is not really something I care about. Like, I never want to be famous. I'm always going to donate all the revenue from this channel to Extra Life. Doesn't matter how much I make on the thing, it's always going to be donated. But I just want it to be more widespread. If we can figure out how to make what we do more widespread. And it was funny because when we got this check, there was somebody that stood up and they had a little they said something about, I didn't know that video games could do this. And that was like, I was like, my dad thinks the same thing. He doesn't really think that video games can really like provide any positivity here. But this is $25,000. G won $4,000. Tech won another $4,000. Again, $2 million over the course of the 10 years, right? You said. Um, I just,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
amazing.
and
It's it is very I hope that we are at least doing a fraction of a good job in telling you how important the Extra Life community has become to our fundraising and how much we depend on it and how much like those NICView cameras and like those stuffed animals, the things that are nice to have but aren't in the budget, that's where you all come in. And our it's a subculture that I don't think was ever given the opportunity to do as much good as you're capable of. Um, and it's a beautiful chance to, even if folks are anonymous, even if they don't want to put their face out there, it's their ability to do something they love and do it for a really genuinely good local cause.
I am just happy to contribute. I've always just been happy to contribute, and that's what I'm so glad that we can do together. Um, I guess that'll wrap up the interview, unless you have anything else you'd like to add. Anything? All good?
Just thank you. Lots and lots of thank yous. And I would just invite anyone to follow us on social media, if even old Facebook.
Plug all the
We've got
things. Plug them all.
yeah. We've got a group called Central Coast Miracle Makers on Facebook that we keep track of what's going on out there and invite folks with questions. I will make sure you've got all my contact information.
Hmm.
But if folks have questions, we're open. We're here to help. One of the old taglines is "Help me, help you, help kids," and
Nice.
that is the truth. It is helping me, help you, help the kids that we serve. Um, yeah, so I'm open to questions, or we'd love to get more folks involved.
Fantastic. If anybody asks me a question here in chat, I'll throw it your way and see if we can get you an answer before end of stream. So,
Definitely.
well, thank you so much, Melissa. I really appreciate your time and I appreciate all the effort you put in, not only just for this interview, but in your daily job and in your daily life. That's really so cool to have someone like you here.
Thank you. I am privileged to be able to do it. I still wake up in the morning and think I get to do this. Not I have to do this, but I get to do this every day, and I'm very lucky.
I love to hear it. That's so cool. I think we'll throw it back to our show. I think that'll be it. And let's get back with the fun. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Really appreciate you all, and we'll see you in a moment. Thank you.